We welcome you back to MLB Round Trip with Perfect Game here on MLB Network Radio. Great conversation with America's pitching coach. I love that title. Ron Wolforth, the founder and CEO of the Texas Baseball Ranch in Montgomery, Texas. Such a rich alumni of those that have gone on to a lot of levels, a lot of them to the major leagues, but let's be honest, to NAIA, JUCO, D2, D1, College World Series, JUCO World Series. Selfishly, that's what I think is most fun about your alum, that they try to reach their potential, and that's the most important thing. You wrote a great article that people can find, and I'm guessing it's out by now on perfectgame.org. If not, wait for it. I'm going to preview it because I got a chance to preview it myself, about Trevor Bauer. And the thing I enjoyed most about reading it is I think it's very difficult right now to read about Trevor Bauer and to just read about Trevor Bauer, the pitcher. And I think it's funny. This won't surprise you, I bet, Ron. I ask our athletes to fill out biographies all the time ahead of big events, and they do it electronically. So it's easy. I get it in a hard drive. I can save it. I can learn, 10, 12 questions about them. There are so many young pitchers out there, so many that look to him, not for life advice, not for, where to buy the next car, but for just, being ahead of the curve as it pertains to pitching.
For sure.
That probably doesn't surprise you. You were one of Trevor's teachers when he was willing to be and decided to be your student from 8th grade heading into 9th grade. And that's kind of where the relationship began. You caught up with him during his youth, and you called him in the article very easy to train. Explain why.
Because when Trevor came to work, right, and that, I don't think that surprises anyone. Trevor came every single day with a burning desire, a rage, what I would call a rage to master. And so that's easy to train. As my father used to say, my late father used to say, it's much more enjoyable to kind of guide a Mustang than to try to pull a mule forward, and or to light a fire under a wet log. Trevor came driven, and so he's easy to train because if you can make sense, as I said in the article, if you can get something that makes sense to him, if he accepts the why behind the drill, he's all in. You got him, right? You don't have to go back and see if tomorrow he's doing his stuff. He's all in. Now, he was very skeptical, which I think is a good thing. And I will say to every parent, and I say this all the time, skepticism is a sign of a working mind, in my opinion. Now, cynicism, that's different. But if I'm skeptical of something, that just means I'm mulling it over, and I just don't blindly accept anything. And as people that have followed Trevor's career know, that's certainly him. He's very skeptical. So all things being said, he was very easy to train.
It's interesting. One thing that you shared, and you just touched on it a little bit, was that you would make suggestions, and you touched on the skepticism and sometimes a little bit of the pushback. I'm sure it was done respectfully, but you said basically 60% of the time he was all in on my explanation or suggestion. To me, and what I love about the article is you make it clear that's a fine number for me. That's a fine number for me. I don't take it personal. I'm here to provide opportunities and suggestions. I love the fact that as one of the preeminent teachers of the sport and one of the preeminent teachers of arm care and pitching, you're just fine with 60% acceptance, especially, as you said, with a guy like Trevor.
Well, there's to be fair to all of us, it's silly to expect that we're going to be 100% right. When I wake up in the morning, that's not the goal. The goal is to be more right than I was yesterday. And I was flawed yesterday. So I'm never going to have it all right. And so I don't expect the player to just blindly accept what I'm going to say. And so 60% to me was good. And as I also said in the article, about 20% or so, 25%, if I spent a little bit more time describing it, he would buy in again, right? So I would get 80% buy-in, 85% buy-in, and that's really good. But that 20% was really important for me as a teacher because it forced me to go, okay, I need to rephrase that, right? If you talk to a good history teacher, if you talk to a good violin teacher, I'll guarantee you they will say, okay, let me rephrase. let me give it another analogy. Let me give you another perspective because that one isn't working. And that's just what you should do with players. But Trevor, the reason Trevor was very obvious is because when he didn't get it, he wouldn't just kind of go, oh yeah, yeah. Some players go, yeah, 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 and they don't. They're just saying that because they don't want to run a lap or right? They don't want to get somebody mad at. But Trevor is just like his emotions were on his sleeve, and he would go, I don't understand that, or I don't agree with that, whatever. So you kind of knew.
It's interesting because I loved your answer in the article, and go read it. Find it on perfectgame.org about, your endorsement of his warm-up process, basically because he had checked every box of putting in the time, listening to suggestions, finding as you call it, the hyper-personalization culture that we talked about in the first segment.